First, let's get a few basic terms out of the way before we start. PID stands for Parameter Identification. SID stands for Subsystem Identification. SPN stands for Suspect Parameter Number. PID, SID, and SPN is used to group fault codes together. FMI stands for Fault Mode Indicator. This gives the fault some sort of meaning. If the dash only said SPN 411, then we would know there was something wrong with the EGR delta pressure sensor and nothing else. Once we give it an FMI number such as FMI 4, we now know that the signal wire is either open or shorted to ground. With an identification number and an FMI number, we can begin our diagnostic process. So there are a lot of different tools that will allow you to view fault codes without a laptop or software. One of them which we have here. This is a Scan Gauge KR. We sell them here and you can pick one up for about $200. We're connected to a DDEC 4 ECM on the bench, and I've simulated a few failed sensors. First, I'll go to Scan, then Codes. Then we can see what the first code is. We can see the first code here is ID 102 FMI 3. Let's go to our website and see what that code is. Again, we'll go to Customer Resources, Diagnostic Code Library, Detroit, then Diagnostic Codes DDEC 3 and 4. We'll scroll down until I find ID 102 FMI 3. Okay, here it is. Looks like it's for Turbo Boost Pressure Sensor Input Voltage High. So if we hit this button on the right, we can scroll through all the fault codes. What do we have next here is ID 111 FMI 3. Let's go look this one up. And looks like this one is for coolant level sensor input voltage high. Alright, so we are inside of the cab of a 2015 Freightliner Cascadia with the DD15 engine. Using the trip button on the dash, we can cycle through to see what the faults are. If you are unsure how to do this, you can follow along in this example or consult your owner's manual. Okay, so I'm cycling through the menu to access the diagnostic portion of the dash. Alright, pause. We can see it says Diag, which is short for diagnostic, and the number 4 means it has 4 fault codes. Let's start by writing the fault codes down so we can look them up later. Fault 1, or the first fault code, is pause. The first message tells us which module is reporting the fault and the source address. Think about it how the postal service works. When you send a letter to someone, you give your name and your address. Your truck does the same thing. It says here ENG1, which means we have a fault coming from the engine and an address of 1. The next screen is our SPN screen. You can see it says SPN at the bottom. It's sort of hard to see in this video, but we have an SPN of 94. The next screen says Fail 4. This is saying that we have a fault mode or FMI number of 4. So once we have this information, we can look up on PittsburghPower.com to see what the fault code is. From the home page, we can click on Customer Resources, then Diagnostic Code Library, then DD Diagnostic Codes. In this case, we have a GHG14, so we'll click that one. From here, you can scroll down and find fault codes for the ACM, MCM, and CPC. In our case, we have a fault from the MCM, Motor Control Module, or the Engine Controller, or ECM. You can use the Find function to find the fault code faster. So looking at this screen, we can see in the most left column, SPN. The column next to it, we see the FMI number. Here we have SPN 94 and FMI 4. The fault code is for low side fuel pressure sensor circuit failed low. This is a long-winded way of saying the plug for the fuel filter is unplugged. Let's find one more fault code. This fault is coming from EEC61. After a quick Google search for DD15 EEC61, lets me know that this fault is coming from the ACM, or after treatment controller. Then we see we have an SPN of 3936 and FMI 18. Let's look up this fault code. Alright, so once we have found 3936 FMI 18, we see that it's for DPF pressure out of range low. Usually low DPF pressure means there is an exhaust leak or something, but this gives us a good place to start our diagnostic process.